Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this press briefing. This is the first press briefing that I am hosting in my capacity as lead counsel of the TRRC. After consultations between myself, the chairman, the commissioners, and the executive secretary, it has been decided that I should host regular press briefings so as to assist the general public to understand what is going on in the TRRC. In that regard, I look forward to meeting you regularly in these briefings. Lately, the Commission has received a number of requests from interested Gambians for clarification or explanations of some of the procedural arrangements of the TRRC. This is partly due to the fact that the rules of procedure of the TRRC dated 7 January 2019 are still provisional and as such have not yet been published. I will now endeavor to answer some of the queries that have been raised. The first issue deals with the objective and mandate of the TRRC. As many of you are aware, the TRRC is a truth-seeking exercise. According to Section 13 of the Act, the objectives of the Commission are to A, create an impartial historical record of the violations and abuses of human rights that occurred in the Gambia during the 22-year rule of Jammeh. That is July 1994 to January 2017. Subparagraph 1, that is to promote healing and reconciliation. Subparagraph 2, to respond to the needs of the victims. Subparagraph 3 is to address impunity. Subparagraph 4 is to prevent a repeat of the violations and abuses suffered by making recommendations for the establishment of appropriate preventive mechanisms, including institutional and legal reform. And B is to establish and make known the fate and whereabouts of disappeared victims. And objective C is to provide victims an opportunity to relate their own accounts of the violations and abuses suffered. And finally, to grant reparations to victims in appropriate cases. I must emphasize that the TRRC is not a witch-hunting exercise. It is a victim-centered process that is aimed at establishing the truth about the violations and abuses of human rights that occurred in our country. It is also not a criminal trial. It is for this reason that the Commission endeavors to remove many of the features that would liken the process to a court. The success of the process, however, depends to a large extent on the ability of the Commission to get to the truth of what happened. In this regard, success would be easily attained if witnesses cooperate by providing truthful accounts. False or misleading testimony would only derail the Commission or lead it into error. It is for this reason that the Commission encourages all witnesses, including perpetrators, to speak the truth and nothing but the truth. According to Section 19 of the Act, the Commission may recommend the granting of amnesty under certain terms and conditions to a perpetrator who makes full disclosure of his or her involvement in human rights violations and expresses remorse for his or her own acts or conduct. But Section 15(2)(b) makes it a criminal offense to intentionally provide misleading or false information to the Commission. Thus, premium or great value is attached to providing truthful information and a sanction for providing false information. The system is one of carrots and sticks. Questions have also been asked as to why witnesses or some witnesses are sometimes questioned differently. The mode of questioning a witness depends on several factors. Firstly, the nature and type of hearing, and also the type and legal qualification of the witness. The TRRC has three types of hearings. The first is the victim hearing, the investigative hearing second, and third, the institutional hearings. All witnesses who appear before the Commission participate in pre-hearing meetings with members of the legal team as well as psychosocial support as required. The legal team assesses the level of cooperation and credibility of witnesses. As a result of the pre-hearing meetings, some uncooperating witnesses become cooperative. However, for a limited number of witnesses, in spite of the information put to them, are willing to appear but refuse to be truthful on certain issues. Victim hearings are those in which the person testifying is a victim and talking about her or his own victimization. In such hearings, the mode of questioning is often neutral or open. Among the reasons for this approach are to avoid re-traumatization, avoid being insensitive to the victim's plight, or to empower the witness and provide them a platform for the victim to give an account of his or her own victimization as mandated by the Act. For victim hearings, there is hardly ever any need to robustly question or cross-examine the victim. With regards to investigative or institutional hearings, there is no direct victim. The witnesses in these types of hearings are normal witnesses of fact or persons adversely mentioned. According to the provisional rules of procedure of the TRRC, normal witnesses of fact are questioned using the normal open questions format. There is hardly any need to confront the witness unless there is reason to believe that the witness is not forthcoming or providing false or misleading information. In such instances, the witness may be cross-examined. With regards to persons adversely mentioned, they too could be questioned using the open questions format. Just like normal witnesses, the mode of questioning may change depending on the posture of the witness. Where the witness is evasive, uncooperative, misleading, or hostile, the witness may be questioned more robustly or even cross-examined in order to elicit the truth. In addition, counsel has an obligation, based on the rules of fairness, to put the case or allegations to the adversely mentioned person and give her or him the chance to answer. Thus, questioning an uncooperative, adversely mentioned person would, in all likelihood, be more robust and more confrontational. It is the duty of counsel to test the evidence provided by witnesses. It has been asked whether witnesses are allowed the assistance of lawyers. It must be recognized that a Truth and Reconciliation Commission is not a trial. As such, processes that make it look like a trial are discouraged. It is in this context that many Truth and Reconciliation Commissions do not allow lawyer participation. In the Gambian model, however, there are overarching rules of natural justice and procedural fairness. It is because of that the provisional rules of procedure mandate that persons adversely mentioned may appear with and be assisted by a lawyer with limited rights of audience. The process of using a lawyer is, however, optional. So far, no witness has used it. However, it is important to note that witnesses who have been adversely mentioned have been served with notices of adverse mention and provided with the relevant excerpts of the rules of procedure and have been informed of the right of their right to be assisted by counsel in the hearing. Additionally, during meetings with the relevant witnesses, they are informed of the right to be assisted by counsel during interview and testimony. We know that some witnesses who have been summoned or subpoenaed to testify are currently working with lawyers in preparation for their testimony. Like I have said in the beginning, this is neither a witch hunting exercise nor a trial. We try to elicit the truth from witnesses in a very respectful manner. However, where witnesses are uncooperative, misleading, or play games, we have an obligation to use the repertoire of skills in our toolbox to tackle the situation. If we don't, more witnesses will come and treat the Commission with contempt and ridicule. We would not allow anyone to get away with that. Recently, in the exercise of its mandate and pursuant to its power to visit any place in the country, including without giving prior notice, in accordance with Section 15(1)(b) of the TRRC Act, the Commission visited Joswang and Janjambure prisons after notifying the authorities. Soon after the visit, the PRO of the prison service made a press conference in which he lambasted the Commission for what he termed as unethical and uncalled for visit. On behalf of the Commission, I have been mandated and directed to state that the language of the PRO was unnecessarily harsh and disrespectful. Use of such strong and disrespectful language should not be allowed in official discourse. Our country has gone through a lot in the not too distant past where public officials are not called out to be accountable for their deeds or misdeeds for that matter, and where others with differences in opinion are treated with contempt and ridicule. Such behavior from public officials is unacceptable. The TRRC refused to respond at the time when the unwarranted statements were made, just to diffuse the situation and avoid unnecessary escalation. It certainly would have been more helpful if the prison service had called the authorities in the Commission to discuss their complaint. That is all I have for you, and thank you. I would entertain a few questions before I leave.
Okay. My name is Yusuf Taylor for Gynaco Online News. My first question is, you mentioned that there are witnesses who have started engaging in legal support. Can you tell us who those witnesses are preparing their getting legal support for their testimony? And what do you make of the arrest and charges on JCB Mendy and others?
Thank you very much for your question. The first question really is a no-go for me. This is confidential information which I cannot just pass on to the press just like that. I think it suffices for the public to know that indeed there are some adversely mentioned persons who are resorting to legal advice and legal support in preparation for their testimony. I think that should suffice, really. I cannot go any further than that. You have asked a question regarding the arrest of JCB Mendy and probably some other people. That is a matter you should direct to the Minister of Justice. The arrest was done on the instructions of the Attorney General in exercise of his authority under the Constitution. It is not a matter for the TRRC, and therefore we make no comment on that particular issue. You must realize that apart from the TRRC process, the Attorney General has certain responsibilities, and in his abundant wisdom, he exercised those responsibilities. The TRRC has nothing to say about that, except to reinforce the point that there is a value to speaking the truth, and there are also sanctions for lying in this process. I'm not suggesting that that is the basis for the arrest, but these are important points that we should bear in mind. Thank you. I hope that answers your question. Yes, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Councillor. I have two questions, if possible. The first one is about the coverage of the TRC. In the beginning, we have seen a lot of misunderstanding. You said earlier that only Quit TV that cover the hearings. After that, we have seen that GRTS is here, and Amadou Barry e-media, Senegal. And I would like and today, when you are broadcasting, we see like social media and all of them, they are live and direct, they cover it. So finally, we do not understand what's happening, what's going on, what is this a confusion that only one media, after that GRTs and others too? I would like to have your point of view on that. And secondly is the witness. You have answered to that question, but I would like, some are saying with the arrest is a kind of selective justice. Some witnesses are arrested, some are not arrested. So maybe you people should clarify things to the public. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. On the issue of the media coverage, the principal objective is to make such broadcasts that would have the highest level of penetration to reach the greatest number of people. So for me, if we are able to achieve that with as many media houses, that is fine. But the communications department of the TRRC has established certain policies. But policies are not static. They may change depending on the rate of success of their implementation. If those who are making the decisions realize that they have particular decisions have not been very popular or have not been as successful as they wanted it to be, they may change the decision. It is probable or possible that they have changed that decision. I really don't know. But the primary objective of the TRRC is to ensure that there is the highest level of penetration or the highest level of notice of TRRC activities by the public. So if it's now basically a free-for-all, I mean, I would not complain for as long as it does not disrupt or jeopardize the work of the TRRC. But this question is really more for the Executive Secretary. He deals with these issues. I cannot pretend to know everything. So I'd rather that this question be sent to him, and at the appropriate time he would weigh on it. He would answer the question if there is something more to add onto what I have just said. But let's bear in mind that the primary objective really is to reach almost everybody in this country. If it takes more than 2-3 media houses to do that, then that's fine. Yes, that gentleman. The second question is on the issue of selective justice. Again, this is a matter for the Attorney General to deal with, and I'm sure that he has adequately answered this question in different fora. So I do not want to paraphrase whatever he said or second guess whatever he said. So it is a matter you should refer to the Attorney General, and he would answer the question. The TRRC has a responsibility where a person comes here and has clearly lied before the commission has a discretion to refer the matter for prosecution. The commission has not yet done that. But there's been an incident of witness tampering in which the commission made a formal referral to the police and requested that the persons, the suspects be prosecuted. That was at the instance of the commission. But that does not necessarily mean that the powers of the Attorney General or the DPP, for that matter, to cause crimes to be investigated and prosecuted are constricted by the powers of the Commission. No, the Attorney General still maintains his powers, regardless of the fact that the Commission can make a referral or not. So it should be borne in mind that we cannot tell the Attorney General not to act. The Attorney General has a responsibility to ensure that crimes are investigated and prosecuted, and I cannot question his discretion or the exercise of his discretion for that matter. Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Yankuba Jallo, Foreign newspaper. Yes, some witnesses who testified before this commission have suggested that you do more investigation than to listen to testimonies. Because we have seen conflicting testimonies before the TRC. What do you have to respond to that? That is number one. Number two, you have been playing videos of witnesses to confront others. And those videos, some of them you as the lead counsel refer to them as liars. And now you're using those videos to prove another one that is a liar. So these are two confusing things.
Let me start with the second one. For the non-lawyer, it may appear that it does not make sense. But for the lawyer, this makes perfect sense. There is what is called divisibility of credibility of witnesses. When a person talks to you, it does not necessarily mean that everything the person said is a lie. There are certain things that may be true. There are some that may be a lie. It would be wrong of me to know that this is a lie and I use it to confront somebody else as the truth. We would not do that. We have ethical obligations. All right? We may use a lie and confront it with another witness just for that witness to reinforce the belief that this is a lie. You understand the point? All right? But in other instances, you may take the truth from a witness who has lied about other issues, and you use that truth to confront another witness. So when we confront witnesses, we know the reason why we're confronting witnesses with what and for what objective. The fact that a witness has lied about one or two things does not mean that the entire witness testimony is a lie. You understand? And also, one may choose to believe aspects of a witness testimony and not other parts of the witness testimony. But this is obvious logic. So it wouldn't make sense really for one to say that because a witness has lied about one thing, everything that the witness said may not be believed. Yes, if a witness is discredited, completely discredited, you would hesitate to believe anything that the witness has said. But obviously there are certain things that the witness has said which would be true, and it may be safe to accept that. So really, that is not really a very big problem as far as we are concerned. You have asked another question. Witnesses say, investigate this issue before you arrive at a conclusion. There are conflicting witness testimonies. The hearing themselves are investigative hearings. You understand? It is intended to elicit the truth from witnesses about what has happened. But these witnesses may have different perspectives, different points of view, or different appreciation of the same set of events. Some also have different motives. Some would be more forthcoming with the truth. Others would want to lie for certain reasons. Others may not even intend to lie, but they also misunderstood certain things. So it is only through testing the evidence of witnesses, testing their testimonies, that the Commission would be able to arrive at conclusions as to where the truth lies. But when we sit here and ask questions and put forward particular theories, it does not necessarily mean that we have accepted those theories as true. But we are testing the theory through the witness. We put it out there for the witness to comment. Sometimes we confront the witnesses with that. It doesn't necessarily mean that that is a theory or a story we have accepted. In fact, counsel does not make the decisions. Counsel does not make the decision on which fact to accept and which fact not to accept. That is a matter for the Commission or for the commissioners. But it is our responsibility, we have a professional obligation to put the case to the witness, especially those witnesses who have been adversely mentioned. If a person said, oh, you, Mr. Fall, you were there, you fired a shot at a particular victim, it is the responsibility of counsel to put that theory to Mr. Fall and get Mr. Fall to accept or deny or offer an explanation. So this is the process. Yes, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Counsel Fall. My name is Abubakar Sedikan. I am a senior member of the Gambia Press Union, and also a freelance journalist who is running his own independent page on the social media. My question is, following the conclusion of the testimony of Mafuji Sonko, an amount of money was presented to him in this hall. There is this a huge public outcry, criticism, that Mafuji should have not, that money should have not been presented to Mafuji in this hall, because this is an independent institution, an impartial institution, that you have so many victims that have their ordeal and they are yet to testify. How would those victims feel if such type of events are taking place at the TRRC hall? That's one question. And the second question is, with regards to your own personality, your able counsel, Esafal, you also presented an empty land to Mafuji Sonko. Some said this would have jeopardized your own personality as the lead counsel of the TRRC. What is your take?
The thing is, I would not go deep into these issues. You know, in everything that people do, there would be critics. Whether the criticism is genuine, whether the criticism is an important one, for some it really does not matter. They just look for one little thing and they criticize. If a group of people out there think that they need to help a particular individual and want to come here and do it, why should we stop them? These are victims. These are people who have suffered. What we want is for Gambians to come out and give generously to them so that we can restore their dignity, so that what they lost can be restored. I gave Mafuji a piece of land and I do not regret it. You know why? Because this person needs it. I have it. What is stopping me from giving it? Why would a person have the problem of the fact that I have my own piece of land and I give it to somebody else? But the thing is, this is a society where people would criticize certain things that are not worth criticizing. I think that as a people, we have to applaud charitable acts. We have to applaud embracing one another as friends, as family, as brothers, as sisters. This country needs healing. We cannot heal if we do not embrace one another. We cannot heal if we do not show kindness to one another. What I did for Mafuji was one act of kindness. And I have done many. There are others in the society who have done many and are continuing to do many. But what rule is there which says that an act of kindness must be hidden? We have to do these things publicly so that it will encourage others to also do it. It is only that way the act or the value of giving would be ingrained or strengthened in our society, because there are a lot of people out there who need it. And the advantage of what we did is the fact that other people have seen it and are emulating what was done. And I think only for that reason it was valuable. But also, you have raised the issue of other victims. I want other victims to get something. We cannot sit here and pretend that the government can give reparations to everyone. All right? If you feel to give to A and Y feels to give to C, why not? If some people want a space to perform that act, why can't we provide it? What does it cost us? The important thing here is to be able to distinguish an act of the commission from an act of private individuals or private entities. If what was done in the name of the commission, for the commission, by the commission, then it becomes different. Then you will realize that, okay, some people may have been preferred to others. But that is not the case. If you choose to give your watch to this witness who testified today, who's stopping you? So as a people, I think we should encourage certain values. the value of kindness, the values of charity, the value of giving. And I do not think that that is something that is worthy of criticism. But people have their different points of view, and I leave it at that.
Good afternoon, Council. This is Keba Ansumani. I'm from the Chronicle newspaper. I would like to know your view, the fact that people who tampered with evidences have been ordered arrest by the Justice Ministry. But then on the other hand, there are instances where evidences has been destroyed at the former National Intelligence Agency. I would like to know your view on that, whether the commission at the commission level you have taken position as far as destruction of evidence are concerned at the NIA. Thank you.
This is an important question. We cannot take a position on something that we do not know. Okay. There is speculation that there's been destruction of evidence at the NIA. But we don't have that evidence yet. But be rest assured that the Commission has a mandate. Destruction of evidence is one important element of that. We have to pay attention to destruction or concealment of evidence. So one of the investigative themes of the NIA, of the Commission, is to have institutional hearings of certain targeted institutions. So we would see what happens. We would investigate certain institutions, and the issue of destruction of evidence would be one issue to investigate with regards to those institutions. So we have to cross that bridge when we get there. But be rest assured that the Commission would not see or would not have evidence of deliberate destruction of evidence and would not do anything about it. It is our responsibility to do something about it, and be rest assured we will do something about it. But for now, we cannot just prejudge the matter, and based on speculation, we accept that there's been destruction of evidence at the NIA, and then we pounce on the NIA. That, I mean, there should be fairness in these processes. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. So let's cut it here because we should be resuming.
Yes. Before we go, I have the pleasure to announce that we would have a very important hearing tomorrow. A very important hearing. That's all I can say at the moment. So make sure there is the widest coverage of tomorrow's hearing. Thank you very much.